All right, so this is a quick video explaining the newest concept. So last quote-unquote unit, so all the heuristics, the shortcuts that we've looked at so far all dealt with the first piece of information. So anchoring the first number, left digit bias, the literal first number on the left of a number, availability, the most recent news event or event in your head, representativeness, the first category or stereotype of something that comes to mind. So those were all the firsts that our brain uses as a shortcut to judge other things. So we've kind of wrapped that section of heuristics up. And then the next couple of weeks will be about how our brain deals with, and the shortcuts revolving around loss and gain and risk. And so we're going to start with prospect theory. This is also known as loss aversion. So that is the heuristic, is prospect theory, again, also known as loss aversion. And what this is, you can kind of see here a chart where the person, so if you gained $500, so think right now about, oh, you just won $500. Think about how that feels. And then think about the same feeling if you were told you've just lost $500. If you really sat and thought about it, the gut punch of losing $500 feels a lot worse, and that's what this is showing, is the pain feels a lot worse than the joy of gaining the same amount of money. So we feel loss, our brains typically feel loss more than the equivalent gain, okay? And you'll get to see an experiment with this in a few minutes in the video, in a follow-up video, and then you'll run and go do the classic experiment on this. One of the most famous examples or experiments that was ever done was on Olympians, so gold, bronze, and silver medalists. And they went back and studied all the pictures from all the Olympics that were photographed of first place is obviously super happy, third place, happy to just be on the podium, but they studied the faces of the second place person, the person that was often like mere points or milliseconds away from the gold medal, and very often the silver medalist looks kind of bummed, not super thrilled to be there, and this is kind of a classic picture showing that. But where the silver medalist is feeling the loss versus the joy of having won a silver, whereas the bronze medalist is viewing it as a gain because they're just on the podium and happy to be there. So again, what this is, the concept is the tendency to prefer avoiding losses to acquiring equivalent gains. So we will work harder to avoid a loss than the same in a gain, okay? So examples in the investing world for all our finance people is taking a lower gain for a safer, more certain investment because of the fear of potential loss. Same thing in the follow-up video, you'll see an example about a medical procedure. We kind of talked about it before with denominator neglect, and people don't really do the math. But if you're told that, say you're going to get a medical treatment and there's a 5% risk of death with the treatment versus a 95% chance of survival, those are the equivalent. But if you hear 95% chance of survival, that sounds great versus the fear of that 5% chance of loss. So same thing in some of the sources, you'll see a famous example with breast cancer trials. So if someone wanted you to do a procedure, if they emphasize the fear of the loss of like, oh, if you don't do this, you could get breast cancer, for example, that can also, the fear of that loss can get people to do a procedure like a breast exam versus telling them like, oh, if you get the breast exam, you'll have this much chance of survival, of not getting breast cancer, okay? Same thing, workplaces, schools, not great at incentivizing taking risks, trying out new things. It's always about having the gain of success, and that if you fail, that's a bad thing. So we, in current school and workplace environments, failure and taking risks is not necessarily incentivized, okay? And then, like I said, how we view second versus third place, for example, or where we are in standings in competitions. Okay. There will be a follow-up video that will show you some classic experiments, some street science, quote unquote, where they're out on the street trying to get people to show these shortcuts. So there'll be that follow-up video. But in this, I'm going to show you how to do your experiment with the school. So what you'll do is you'll get from the sub, and the sub's going to stagger you out, so you're not all going to go at once and create a problem for the sub. So the sub will say, okay, these two groups you can go now. While you're waiting, you can work on your source and your notes right up, and then take care of your experiment when the sub says. But what you'll do is you'll have a bag of candies. You give 2 candies to the person, have them hold it so they endow it with some value, like they've got it. And then you say, okay, I'm going to flip this coin, the coin that will be in the bag with your candy. And you say, if it's heads, you're going to lose the candy. And then say, but if it's tails, how much more would you want to get in order for this gamble to be worth it to you? And so what you're, in theory, going to see from previous experiments is they typically want 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 candies in order to take the bet, because they fear the loss of the 2 over just having the 2 candies. So they don't typically just say, like, I'll just take the bet. They always want more than the 2. They want a higher gain in order to take the risk. So that's what you're going to record, is how much more candy would they want. And then afterwards you say, like, I'm not actually going to flip the coin, and you're not actually going to get any more candies, but have your 2, enjoy. And then for your analysis, the majority, if it worked, the majority should have said something above 2 candies. So 3, 4, 5, typically the answer. So record that and see if you found loss aversion in your group. And you can go like normal to the library, cafe, senior lounge, or Miss Southworth. And you might run into people who've already done it. That's okay. That's just the nature of today's experiment. Okay? That is it. Go on to the other follow-up video in the assignment, and then tell the sub that you're ready to do the experiment, and the sub will let you know when you can go. Like I said, while you wait, take care of your source and notes write-ups.